Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen, and this week we are doing yet another tag video. But this one is created by me. Now, if you guys watch my channel a lot, you'll probably notice that I'm a real old-school fan of horror. I love 70s and 80s horror, even before then, like the 50s, 60s, and all that. But now and then I do enjoy a modern horror film. So this tag I created for you modern horror fans out there. This is called the Modern Horror Tag. Again, this was created by me. And it's 12 questions all about the modern horror era. So number 1 is, what is your favorite modern horror film of the new millennium? So for me, it's going to be A Quiet Place. I really enjoyed that film. I thought the acting was just Oscar caliber, and it was really refreshing to see that level of acting in a horror film, because we don't see that too often, you know. Usually it's campy B-movies kind of acting, you know. It's not that often you see a horror film with that level of acting in it. I really enjoyed the slow burn suspense and the tension that builds up, that mounts throughout the film. I just thought it was brilliant. Number 2 is, who is your favorite modern horror icon of the new millennium? And I'm going to pick Mick Taylor from the Wolf Creek franchise. That's right, from the first 2 films and then the TV series as well. As played by John Jarratt. I just think he's such an awesome character. So well played by John Jarratt. I just feel like he should be a lot bigger than he actually is. I feel like he's on the level of like a Freddy or Jason or Michael, you know. I just feel like it's such an awesome character, you know. Number 3 is, do you agree with the decision to make The Conjuring a universe of spin-offs, or should it have been kept its own franchise? I feel like it just should have been kept its own franchise. I do enjoy the Conjuring films. They're really good and really scary. But I don't think there was any need to come out with an Annabelle movie or the Nun movie. And a lot of people don't care for those. They make a lot of money, but I don't think they're really very good films. Certainly not on the level of The Conjuring. So I feel like it should just be kept its own franchise, and maybe they could have Annabelle in it later on down the line, or the Nun later on down the line. But it should just be kept its own franchise. That's just my opinion. Number 4. Is It Follows a modern classic or a shameless ripoff of 80s horror classics? I'm kind of in the middle on that. I did enjoy it. I felt it was entertaining. Yeah, I did enjoy that 80s throwback soundtrack, like the John Carpenter style. But I definitely don't feel like it was a classic. I feel like they did rely a little bit too much on the nostalgia factor. But I thought it was entertaining. It had a few scary moments, but certainly it's not like a classic, as some people think. At least I don't think so. So number 5, was The Meg a fun thrill ride, a cheesefest, a scary horror film, or a complete bust? Then The Meg is starring Jason Statham. It's a giant shark movie, you know. We've seen a lot of those lately. And it was highly anticipated because the novel was a very popular novel. Me personally, I thought it was a fun thrill ride. I really enjoyed it. I had a blast. It was a real fun time at the movies. I loved the action. I loved the great special effects. And there was a couple scary scenes, but I certainly wouldn't go as far as to say it was a horror film. And it wasn't as over-the-top as, say, like Sharknado or Piranha 3D or one of those things. I felt they took it seriously enough so that you could take it seriously. So yeah, for me it's a fun thrill ride. And I love Jason Statham in it. Number 6 is the remake fad over, or are there still more classics you would like to see remade today? If so, what films would you choose? So for me, my answer on that is, you guys probably know I'm not a huge fan of remakes at all. I just don't see a need for it most of the time. There have been rare exceptions, but I just say leave it alone, you know. So my thoughts is, it should be over. Will it be over? Probably not. There's probably still going to remake a whole bunch of classic horror films, but I feel like it needs to be over. Stop it, Hollywood. Just stop it. You've already desecrated so many of our beloved classics. Just needs to stop. Come up with some original ideas like A Quiet Place or The Conjuring, or, you know. Those are really good movies. So just focus on that type of stuff instead of coming up with recycled material, you know. Number 7, do you prefer slow burns like The Babadook, Hereditary, and A Quiet Place, or gore fests like Terrifier is a recent film I saw that was really gory, Saw, or Hostel? So for me, it's going to be the slow burn. I really enjoy slow burn. I love suspense and tension, and I love the build-up throughout the film. I like when a movie slowly builds up to a crescendo where absolute hell breaks loose in the third act, you know? So I prefer that to the gore fest style films. And there's always a place for gore, and there are times when I really want to see the gore too, if it's a film like Saw or Friday the 13th. You want to see that gore. Film like Hellraiser, yeah, bring on the blood, bring on the gore. I'm certainly not opposed to it. But if I had to make a choice, I'm going to pick the slow burn. Number 8, do you feel The Walking Dead TV series has run its course? Or is there plenty of gas left in the tank? That's a good question, is it? I bet a lot of you guys are going to have some interesting answers to that one. So for me, I'm going to say, yeah, it's run its course. I feel like they've taken it too far, and they're running out of ideas, and it's becoming really watered down with too much focus on all these different characters. There's way too many groups going on with all these different characters, and there's just no time to focus on all these different characters. It's just way more about these little characters than it is the threat that's going on of the zombie apocalypse outside. That's not as important as the characters, and that shouldn't be that way. It should be about the threat of the zombie apocalypse. That should be the main focus of the show. And I feel like they've lost sight of that. Number 9 is old franchises like Halloween and the Terminator are bringing back the original characters and actors. What other classic series do you think this would work for? So yeah, some old franchises are getting new life by bringing back those old characters and those old, that old crew or original directors or original writers or producers and things like that. And it's kind of giving those new life in the modern age. So I feel like that would really work mainly in A Nightmare on Elm Street. I think that would be the perfect choice to bring back Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger one last time, bring back Heather Langenkamp as Nancy Thompson. Who cares if she died in part 3? I mean, come on, Laurie Strode died in Halloween Resurrection. Why can't you bring back Nancy Thompson? So I feel like if you brought those two back together, that would put asses in the seat, I'm telling you. And it would work. It would really work. I wouldn't mind a grizzled old Freddy, you know. He doesn't have to be young. Plus he's caked in makeup anyway. And I also feel like it would work for the Alien franchise. I feel like he brought Sigourney Weaver back, bring back Michael Biehn's character. You can even bring back Lance Henriksen again as maybe he could be a newer model, a newer version of the android that we saw in Aliens. I think that would work really well too. And I would love that. And I think a lot of the fans would. And I think a lot of the fans probably aren't very happy with what Ridley Scott is doing to the franchise right now. It's really too science fiction-y, too like intellectual, too out there, you know. I feel like we need to go back to the original, the basics, the scares, the tension of the original film from 1979, and maybe a little the action style from the 1986 Aliens film. If you brought those two together and bring back a couple of those original characters, I think it would be gold. Next up, number 10 is, does the vampire genre have a place in the modern age? Possibly, I think, if done right. We did have Let the Right One In, which I feel so far is really the only great vampire film of the new millennium, because they brought such a fresh take of the vampire genre in that film. A lot of people talk about What We Do in the Shadows. I haven't seen that one yet, but I hear a lot of good things about it. I've got to check that one out. But I feel like if you did it right, if you came up with a fresh take on the vampire genre, it would work. Or you could give the reins to Hammer Films, which is still around to this day. Let them go crazy with that old school gothic style flavor that they're known for. And I think that something like that could bring it back too, if you really go old school with it. Bring back the old castles and the the fancy dresses and all that good stuff. So, number 11. What is your favorite ghost story or haunted house film of the new millennium? That's been a huge focus in recent years, is those ghost stories and haunted house style films with a lot of jump scares and things. I'd say that's probably the most prominent thing going on in horror today. But my favorites would have to be The Others, which came out in 2001 with Nicole Kidman. I think that was just an excellent movie with awesome suspense, such a great slow burn feel, such a great atmosphere, and an excellent acting job by Nicole Kidman. And also The Conjuring as well. I thought it was very, very scary, very well done. It had a great mood and style, and yeah, it did have some jump scares, but they were earned, you know. They were earned through tension building. And it was just so well told. The story was well told. And also I feel Sinister was a very good haunted house kind of style setting. And I really enjoyed that film with Ethan Hawke. Number 12, your thoughts on Stranger Things, the TV show for Netflix. Is it a modern masterpiece or just nostalgia and fan service? I'm gonna go with the side of I feel like it is just nostalgia and fan service, a lot of it. And it's really not all that accurate in my opinion. As a child of the 80s, you know, I feel like it's not all that accurate, you know. I feel like they could have done better with it. I do enjoy the series, but I feel like a lot of it's just nostalgia for the sake of nostalgia, you know. So that's my thoughts on it. You guys, of course, might have a different opinion, and I'd love to hear what you think. So that's it, guys, for the modern horror tag created by me. So I'm going to tag all my buddies in the horror hangout, and that is Lisa Loves, Horrific Nightmares JM, Bronco Juggalo Talks Movies, HoRRoRdIgEsT, Dave Maggot, Movie Massacre, and I'm also going to tag Horror Miser Monty G, Random Horror, and Horror Fan 34. So answer the call, guys, and do the modern horror tag. And thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Erschen, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared.